Hi, friends. It's been quite some time since I made my last video, and I apologize about that. I've been quite busy with writing additional books and creating things in the background to hopefully be able to show you very soon, within the next few months. But nonetheless, I've postponed making a video long enough, and I quite miss it. And this video topic ties directly into what I've been experiencing throughout this time. I think the last video was about 8 months ago, but it's about the topic of why are you ignoring your intuition? And this is a question that we don't ask ourselves very often, mainly because most of us probably don't really know what that voice sounds like, or if we do know what it sounds like, it's not very familiar. And to just go over some of the, I guess you can call them consequences or byproducts, outcomes of not following your intuition, which we all know very well. Our intuition is that still small voice. And it's not really in our minds, it's more so in our hearts. And that's where you feel it most. Intuition is something that is more so felt than a mental process. Although it can come through as thoughts, it usually comes through feeling. And it's that feeling when you know that you're on the right track, or it's that feeling to be inspired or to reach out to that person that you haven't, in quite some time. It's that feeling that you know is you. It is your higher self. It is your soul, if you want to call it that. It is the higher part of yourself that all it wants to do is to grow, to love, to expand. And the other part of ourselves, which is typically we call the ego, is that thinking mind. It's the critic. It is the negative thinking that goes on in our minds. It's that judgmental aspect of ourselves. So these two are kind of at odds at each other almost at all times if we're human. And what happens is most of the time we follow the ego, or this thinking monkey mind. The croc brain is what some people call it. We prioritize that over our intuition. And what happens is if we stop listening to our heart, it speaks less and less and becomes more silent than it already is. It's not really silent, it's quiet. And so the noise of this monkey mind becomes way too loud. And so it seems like we have lost touch with ourselves, our intuition, and we don't feel like we know ourselves anymore. And we almost feel dissociated with who we actually are. We don't know who we are anymore. And that's when we feel lost, depressed, anxious. We don't have energy. We don't really feel fulfilled. And we don't have motivation or inspiration to do anything. And all that is just a byproduct of being disconnected with ourselves. And we are more connected with our devices, with dopamine, with advertisements, shows, all external things, money, fame, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If it is external and we prioritize that, then we deprioritize our own well-being, our own mental health, our own fulfillment. And so I'm sure you can see the difference between the two now. And so what we can do to remedy this is to begin to tune into our own intuition. And once we begin doing that, the thing that stops most people is fear. It's scary to listen to yourself, to be alone, because most of the time when we're alone, we feel lonely. But it's not true that everyone who is alone feels lonely. And the only reason why we feel lonely is because we've forgotten who we are. And the more okay you are with yourself, the more that you become friends with yourself, your heart, your soul, your higher self, the less lonely you will feel when you are alone. And the typical emotions that we feel when we are alone are a great indicator of how connected we are with ourselves. So the first step really is to become okay with being alone and to realize that thoughts are not facts, and whatever that we're thinking about can be questioned and it can be let go of. The main reason why we experience these tumultuous emotions is because we believe everything that we're thinking. And as soon as we begin creating space between our thoughts and our awareness of them, then in that space lies our personal freedom. From that space, once that space is really created, then we can start to hear our intuition, our heart, what our soul truly wants. And all it wants for us is just for us to be happy, to feel at ease, at peace, to experience contentment. And from that space grows other things like joy, love. All of those things are not something that we have to force ourselves to do, but are a natural byproduct of when we are at peace with ourselves. So what makes you feel alive? What is your intuition telling you now? And the simplest way to begin accessing your intuition again is to talk to it. It's really a long lost friend, and it will always talk to us when we talk to it. But it's not going to force its own agenda onto us. It's just still, it's quiet, and it is patient. And whenever it speaks in a very calm, peaceful tone. It's never demanding. It never coerces you into doing anything. It simply states things as is. And once we tune into it, then we can feel that same way as well. That sense of stillness, that sense of groundedness that we can have. So start asking questions like, what is my intuition saying? What are you trying to tell me in this situation? What feels most expansive to me in the moment? What feels aligned with me to do right now? What parts of myself feel out of balance? Because your intuition will always guide you back to yourself. Things that are best for you, that are meant for you. And so if you ask yourself these things, it can be as simple as, should I eat this thing? And our egoic mind might be, it's let's say it's some unhealthy junk food. The egoic mind will say, yes, do it. It'll taste so good. You deserve it. You've worked so hard. But then if you access your intuition and ask, should I eat this based on my intuition? It might say, it might taste good now, but you'll feel terrible afterwards. And is that what you really want? Do you want to be in this low energetic state and to feel a little bit more lethargic? So it will tell you these things. And it is amazing what kind of insights that you'll receive once you start asking it more and more questions. So that's what I've been doing throughout this time. And that's how I wrote my book, Don't Believe Everything You Think. And it was all just accessing this other part of myself, this higher self, my heart, soul, doesn't matter what you want to call it. Some people call it God, universe. It's just the part of ourselves that is greater than the thinking mind. And that's what I used to write the book. And that's what we use and can use to navigate life. And when we do this, life becomes so much more enjoyable, pleasant, expansive, exciting. The thing about intuition is that it lives in the land of the unknown. Our egoic mind lives in the land of certainty. It tries to protect. The ego is not wrong by any means. All it is doing is trying to help you survive, to protect you against perceived threats. And so what it does is it gets defensive. It blocks people out. It blocks opportunities out. It starts judging and criticizing to keep you within this container that is perceived as safe. But the question is, do you want to be safe or do you want to be free? Because you can't have both. The egoic mind will keep us in this cage that seems safe, but we do sacrifice a lot for it. And that comes at a high cost, which is our own fulfillment, our own peace, our own joy. The illusion is that when we begin following our intuition, is that we won't be safe. But this is far from the truth. You are always safe, right here, right now. And you can always do things to ensure that what you're doing isn't necessarily dangerous. The majority of things that we want to do in our lives aren't necessarily life-threatening, but our egoic mind will make us feel that way. It will say, if you post this video, then everyone's going to judge you and criticize you and make fun of you, and you're going to say the wrong thing and get canceled, and all this stuff. It's going to say all those unnecessary things. Or if you want to quit your job, then it's going to say, what are you going to do for work? Your parents are going to judge you. Your friends are going to think this of you. And those things aren't necessarily life-threatening, but they can feel that way. As opposed to intuition, when you follow that, it's very, very scary because it's in the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. It's uncertain. But what you know for certain is that you will know how you will feel afterwards. You'll feel free. You'll finally feel liberated from the shackles of and the imprisonment of the ego. And so that's the decision that you have to make in each moment. Do you want to be free now, or feel safe and sacrifice all of that liberty that we have as our birthright? So just try that this week and see what happens. It's not a massive shift you have to make overnight. Anything that I say here is not advice. It's merely suggestions. It's things that I've done myself. I would never suggest anything that I haven't done myself. And this is what I found to be true for me, and hopefully it can help you. But try it for a week to see what happens. Ask yourself these questions, access your own intuition, ask your heart what to do. What should I do? How would this make me feel if I did it? What would make me feel most alive? What would make me feel fulfilled in this moment? And it will tell you. And just take baby steps towards it. It's not a thing that you have to uproot your life, right? You don't have to move to a different city. You don't have to go live in the mountains as a monk or something like that. It could be as simple as take a moment and don't go on your phone for just maybe this morning, this evening. It could be eating different foods that might make you feel more wholesome, healthier. It could be beginning to exercise again, but it doesn't have to be that much. It could just be going for a walk outside. Take the small possible action that you can, that your intuition is telling you, and build momentum. That's the most important thing. It's not about the size of the action. It's about the action itself. It's about the process rather than the outcome that you'll get from it. Although the outcomes are quite amazing, it's the process of growing, which is what we value most. Because if we instantly got everything we wanted, that wouldn't be fun anymore. We would actually lose all of the joy in it. And that's what happens when, let's say, if parents spoil their kids too much and give them everything they want. You can see how the kids turn out to be ungrateful, unappreciative, quite demanding and things like that. And that's what happens when we are spoiled and we give our egoic mind everything that it wants. But many times doing the harder thing, the thing that might produce some challenge for us, is where we find the most fulfillment. And I think that's a worthy cause to undertake, which is to find ourselves again, to go on an adventure to do that. What better way can we live our lives and to help other people do the same? So try that for a week, see what happens. I'm sure you'll notice a difference quite quickly. So all it takes is just one question, really. And one question is all it takes to change our lives sometimes. And that was the case for me. And this might be the start of something for you. And so I hope this helps. Don't overthink it. Just feel whatever it is in your heart. You might experience some sort of emotion right now. You might experience a little bit more freedom, a little bit more peace listening to this. I know I am at this moment. So hopefully that is a reflection that you're experiencing as well. And just follow that feeling. That's all you have to do. Life is simple if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be crazy complicated or this labyrinth of things we don't understand, and that happiness is too difficult to obtain. That doesn't have to be the case. Just continue to let go, to trust, and to take the next step ahead of you that your intuition or your heart is telling you, and you'll be okay. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all.